All right, guys. Good evening. Good evening. Once again, you guys know what time it is. It is Monday night, 8 o'clock p.m., which means it's time for another edition of Money Mondays. This is call number 17. So I didn't envision call number 17 when we started these 17 weeks ago, if you guys can believe that. So we've been going strong for 17 consecutive weeks. I think we took 1 week off for Memorial Day, but outside of that, guys, we've been very, very consistent. And to those of our regular listeners, just want to say I really, really appreciate you guys as well, because the majority of our listeners have been along with us for this entire ride and the entire time. And it's been really, really cool. So each call I feel like has not necessarily been better than the previous ones, but each one kind of has its own spin and I think touches the different listeners and the different callers in a different way. I know I can say the exact same thing for myself as putting together the calls from week to week. Each of the topics is near and dear to me. You guys who know me personally and have been listening to the calls for a little while also know that I'm someone who always tries to pride myself on not giving advice, right, in areas that I don't have any experience in. So I can personally say that all 17 calls have been near and dear to me because they've been personal in one way or another. They've been sort of a part of me or something that I've lived, et cetera, from one call to the next. So really, really appreciate you guys for listening and also participating, too, because without you guys listening and asking questions, et cetera, then the calls aren't half as good as what they could be. So I really, really appreciate you guys. If this is your first time listening, guys, my name is Sadiq Ali, and I'm a speaker, I'm a trainer, I'm an author, I'm a founder of Millionaire Manners Academy. And as I say every single week, guys, if no one has told you today that they believe in you, let me be the first to say I believe in you guys that are on this call. I believe in your greatness. I believe in your potential. And most importantly, I believe in your ability to change. That is one of the most important sort of factors that makes us human and that really allows us to see potential at the end of the tunnel. That light at the end of the tunnel is the ability to change. And literally, you can do something completely different tomorrow and get a completely different result from day to day. And we're really one of the few species that can say that. So we're really, really fortunate to be able to say that literally tomorrow I can change one thing and my whole entire life can be different. So I also want to welcome you guys to summer. So today is the second day of the official start of summer. I know we already had Memorial Day and the pools opened up, et cetera, but according to the calendar, today is the second day of summer. And literally we have about 8 days until the first half of the year is completely done. So with that being said, I thought tonight's topic, which is 4 reasons to face your fear and kill your fear now. As the first half of the year comes to a close, I couldn't think of a better topic to sort of talk about tonight, because next week, right, we'll be 1 day away from the end of the first half of the year. So for all my sports fans, you guys know what time it is, right? Once the first half is over, it's game time. It's game time officially, right? Football, second half. That's when the game gets real. Basketball, that's when the second half that's when the game gets real, is in the second half, right? Because that's your third quarter and your fourth quarter. You guys know, right? Again, my sports fans, as soon as third quarter comes, third quarter really tells the tale of the game. So as of July 1, we'll be entering in the third quarter of the year. So many, many people say how you start the third quarter, that's going to determine whether or not you win or lose the entire game. So your first 6 months might have been a wash, but you have an entire second half to make a difference and to make a change that we just talked about. So a couple ground rules for the call, guys. If this is your first call, we want it to be fun. We want it to be interactive. So if there's a question or comment that you have, I got the Twitter up right now. I got the Facebook up right now. We got the Instagram up right now, @Millionaire Manners. If you guys want to shoot me a text message on my personal line, take down my number. It's 443-271-3604. You guys can shoot me a text. If you don't, because we got some shy folks on the call from week to week, right? There's some folks that I don't like asking questions at the end, right? It's too many people listening. That's okay. Shoot me a text, and we'll make sure that I get your question answered either on the line or I'll just shoot you back a text to answer your question later on offline. So really the choice is yours. Only other 2 ground rules, guys, is that if you hear something that makes sense, share it with someone else. Share it with someone else within 24 to 48 hours of you hearing it, because many teachers will tell you they learn their subject each time they teach it. Same thing is true with everybody else. You learn by teaching. So if you hear something that makes a little bit of sense to you tonight, Go and share it with a friend, a family member, someone that you care about. That's what real friends do anyway, that they share the love, okay? And then lastly, take some notes. Take some notes. So, again, that way you can go back and review what it is that sort of made some sense for you. Go back and review so then that way it sticks, right? Because repetition is how most people learn, and I'm no different. I got a hard head, so it takes me a long time sometimes to get things. So the more I hear something, or the more I have an opportunity to go back and read it and review it, then the more indelibly it is imprinted in my brain. So I want to encourage you guys to do the same thing, right? So as is customary, guys, we're going to get into, I got two quotes. I got two quote of the call, quote of the night for tonight, and they're both talking about fear, but really fear as it relates to courage and leadership, because you guys know every single call I talk to you, I don't think there's been a call yet out of 17 calls where I have not mentioned the word leadership at least one time. And I challenge somebody to go back and listen to the other calls, which, of course, are on our website at millionaire-manners.com/Money Mondays. I dare somebody to go back and find a call that I have not mentioned the word leadership in. It will not happen, because leadership is something that is really some of the spice of life. It is something that separates individuals. It separates circumstances. It separates many, many different situations if you're able to really utilize leadership. So tonight's quote of the call number one, quote, "People follow courage, not titles." I'll say that one more time. People follow courage, not titles. And that's actually a quote from the movie Braveheart, and that's the character of William Wallace, who was portrayed by Mel Gibson, great actor. The second quote of the call, okay? The second quote of the call is from Mark Twain. Mark Twain, famous author, famous writer, one of the greatest really writers that we've ever had in history. Mark Twain said, "Courage is the resistance of fear, the mastery of fear, not the absence of it." Okay? I'll say that one more time. Courage, right? Courage is the resistance of fear. It's the mastery of fear, not the absence of it. Anybody who tell you that they've never been scared before, they're lying or they're crazy. Either way, stay away from them, okay? Everybody is scared of something. But again, being courageous, being a leader, doesn't mean that you're not scared of whatever it is that you're scared of. Doesn't mean it doesn't make your heart beat fast, but it means that, again, you do it anyway. So tonight we're going to go over four reasons that you need to face your fear and kill your fear right now, as in right now, 8:13 p.m., Monday, June the 22nd, 2015, second day of summer, right now. Number one, fear limits you and your perceived potential. And I use that word perceived very, very purposefully in this situation, in this context, right? I say perceived because perception is actually the only thing that matters in the scheme of whether or not you actually achieve success in your life. It's whether or not you perceive that you can, okay? Because fear robs you of your power. Because remember, in life, you never get what you deserve. You only get what you think you deserve, what you perceive that you deserve. So if in your mind, fear is telling you you're only capable of this little tiny little bit of something over here instead of this big, grand design, then you're never going to achieve anything worthwhile, because fear is going to be the thing that's in the back of your mind, or really in the front of your mind, and it's going to be that roadblock. So you have to get rid of your fear because it limits your potential. You have to do the thing that scares you, because if not, you're limiting your own potential. And again, most importantly, your own perceived potential, your own perception of yourself, your own self-image. All these things are intertwined, and you cannot rise above. You cannot be anything greater than what you think you are or what you think you can be. That's the way the mind works. If you only see yourself as a C student, guess what? You'll never get a B. And if you get a B, trust me, you'll get to C the next time. If you think you're only a B student and that you can never earn A's, if that's your perception of yourself, you're never going to get an A. It's always going to be B pluses, right? B minuses, B's, until you change your perception and get rid of the fear, right? Because sometimes people fear success. So unless you get over the fear of getting that A, right, then you're never going to see that A. So you have to get rid of your fear now. Face the fear because it's limiting your potential. Number 2, second reason to kill your fear, okay? Number 2, facing your fears will give others permission to do the same thing. So many people wonder about how they can help others or give back to people as they might have been helped, etc. Here's the answer, and it's an easy one too. Do the thing that scares you that you know scares other people too, right? And here's a couple of examples, right? You guys know for a fact, right, that if you're in a meeting or if you're in a class or you're in a group setting and there's a speaker or there's somebody up front, and they're like, okay, I'll take some questions now. Everybody's sitting around silent, scared, fearful. But as soon as somebody raises their hand, right, they ask a question, right? It's the exact same question you had, right? But you were scared to ask. But so that person stepped up and asked the question, and like instantly 9 or 10 other people either have the same question or now, right, after the first person steps up and asks the question, now everybody else will start asking questions too, right? So you just, without saying a word, you just gave permission to everybody else to face their fears as well. So by you facing your fears, you automatically help other people do the exact same thing, right? Here's another example. I know this has happened to almost everybody in the call. I know it's happened to me, right? You're waiting in line for a roller coaster, and you got a group of people with you. They're like, oh, man, this ride looks kind of scary. I don't know. And one person out of the group says, I'm a ride. Hey, I don't know what y'all going to do, but I'm riding. And as soon as that one person does that, what happens to the group? Everybody else gets in line too. That's because that person was probably just as scared as everybody else, but they resisted it, right? The second quote, right? They resisted the fear. They didn't not feel fear. They weren't not scared, but they felt the fear, but then they resisted it. And they got in line, and what happened? Everybody else got like, well, hey, if he's riding, I'm going to ride too, right? I know that's happened to everybody on this call. Here's another example, one more for you, right? At the swimming pool, you know that water is freezing, and you know everybody else knows it's freezing too, but you always got that one daredevil in the group. One of my sons is like that. He'll just jump into the water. It's freezing cold. He knows it's cold, but he feels the fear, but he does it anyway. And then guess what happens after that? Everybody else jumps in the pool, feeling the fear, but doing it anyway, okay? This is also, here's the word. I told you I was going to use it again. This is also helping you to develop your leadership. That's why it's also so important, because that's partially what good leaders do. They face their fear anyway, which then again gives their followers, the people who are counting on them, it gives them permission to face their fear too. Okay? Because the other point that you want to keep in mind is that you never, ever, 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 ever want to get used to being afraid or letting your fear paralyze you. Because like we said, right, everybody feels fear. And again, if somebody tells you they're not scared of anything, either they're lying or they're crazy. Either way, stay away from them, okay? Everybody feels fear, but the courageous feel the fear. They do it anyway. They don't let the fear paralyze them. Keep them still. Turn them into a statue where they're just looking at this bad thing happen, or they're looking while something crazy is going on, when they could have stepped up and did something about it, but they didn't because fear paralyzed them, okay? So fear also helps you, facing your fear also helps you become a better leader. Number three, this is the third reason why you need to face your fear right now. It is now 8/19, Monday, June the 22nd, 2015. Face your fear right now. Number 3, as you face your fears and learn to face your fears, you're naturally becoming more confident. Now, we did almost 3 calls in a row about the subject of building confidence and becoming a more confident person, a more confident leader, right? This is another way to become more confident, is by facing a fear. Might not even be a really, really big one or your most scary fear, but as long as you're facing at least one fear a day, doing something every day. I wrote an article about that. It's on my website as well. I wrote a blog post about how I did something one day that was so scary to me, but as soon as I did that, it was like, man, the whole world opened up to me because it was so scary, but it was something that I had to do it. I knew I had to do it, but I was scared to do it, so I put it off. I procrastinated. We've also done a call about procrastination, right? But it was so scary, I put it off. until I finally realized that one thing that I was scared of was the key to me getting awesome results, or to me getting something really, really cool in return, okay? So as you guys face your fears and as I face more of my fears, I'm building my own confidence level, right? Because confidence, by definition, is the exact opposite of fear. And, of course, the cousin of fear, right, is doubt, uncertainty, anxiety, you worrying all the time. Oh, what if this happens, right? That's the scary person's favorite two words. Well, what if this happens? Well, what if that happens? Oh, well, what if she does this? Or, well, what if he says this? Or, well, what if that happens? Oh, well, over and over and over again. I was like, man, let it go, right? You guys know what I'm talking about. What if? Get rid of those words, what if. All they do is build doubt, right, which builds hesitation, which in turn leads to fear, right? That just feeds in, and it just makes the fear grow larger and larger and larger, because it is possible to simply starve your fear. Just like anything else, you can feed your confidence and you can starve your fear, or vice versa. You can starve your confidence and just keep feeding your fear with more what ifs and more just hypothetical situations, and this could happen, et cetera, et cetera. Guys, it is mind-numbing, and it is really, really scary and counterproductive to keep up the what-if game. I promise you, okay? But again, to face your fears, it helps you build your confidence, okay? Now, one important point that I want to make sure that we mention, okay, is that to face your fears and to acknowledge risk isn't the same thing as being reckless, because there's some folks who are so comfortable with their fear that they just do reckless things, right, because they're not thinking of potential consequences, right? My point is to make sure that you look at potential positive consequences as well as potential negative consequences. Then if it's not like a life or death situation, to go ahead and do the thing that's scaring you. But I don't want you to not think about the worst that can happen. See, that is called being reckless. See, but when you take a risk, a calculated risk means that you thought about it, you observed, right? You analyzed what potentially could go wrong, and you went ahead and made a plan and did it. That's not the same thing as being reckless. People who are reckless, they don't think before they act. They just do anything. They might feel a bit of fear about what it is they're doing. They might not. But people who are reckless, they just do anything, anytime. You don't want to spend time with reckless people, and you yourself do not want to be a reckless individual, because reckless people end up either 6 feet under or they end up in jail, right? People who take uncalculated risks, right? That's the same thing in my definition, and different people might define it as something different, right? But in my opinion, reckless is not the same thing as being fearless. Okay, those are two different things, right? And the other point that I want to make sure that we make is that as you analyze the worst that can happen, right, then you're going to be able to stand by your own decisions more confidently. Okay, that's going to make you a more confident individual, more confident, like I said before, leader. Because like William Wallace said from Bravehearts, people follow courage, not titles. Number 4, guys, this is the last reason. The last reason for you to face your fear and destroy it, kill it right now. Number 4 is give yourself a reason to be proud of you. And this is a big one. And again, a lot of you guys who know me personally know that I talk about this all the time, especially when I talk and I do my workshop on journaling. Journaling, the very first category that I recommend that people journal in is achievements, a.k.a. what are you proud of you about? What have you accomplished or achieved, no matter how big, no matter how small, since the last time you wrote in your journal, or the last time that you had a conversation with yourself? What is something that you can be proud of? So in facing your fear, you're now building yourself up to be able to be proud of you. So many times we don't give ourselves enough credit or opportunity to be our own hero. Instead, we look off in the distance, in the horizon. We look for, again, this pie in the sky individual, this superhero, or this athlete, this professional athlete, or this person that we might look up to or idolize, etc. But that's cool. But here's the crazy part. the majority of people that we look up to or idolize, right, or think to ourselves, man, I can never do what they do, is the exact same thing that we could do too if we got over our fear. So literally, sometimes the only thing that separates us from our idols or our own heroes, external heroes, right, heroes that aren't us, sometimes the only thing that separates us from them is the fear that we refuse to face. But guys, fear is never, right, is never all it's cracked up to be. The majority of the time, nothing ever happens. Nothing ever happens, right? But I want all of us, right, myself included, to be focusing on the times when I can set myself up to be my own hero, because there's nothing that's more beautiful for you building your self-esteem or building your confidence than for you to believe in you, right? And that only comes through practice in facing your fear a little bit every single day. My recommendation is that everybody listening to me right now does at least one scary thing every single day. You will build yourself and grow in ways you did not think are possible, right? So in essence, it's not that our idols are so much smarter than us or better than us or luckier than us. They might just be a little bit better at pushing through their fear. And, of course, this can make all the difference, right? Because remember, and I use this quote all the time, right? I think it was one of our former presidents who said this, maybe Dwight D. Eisenhower. And I love this quote so much, I should know exactly who said it, but right now I'm drawing a blank, so somebody feel free to Google it. But one of my favorite quotes is that, again, courage is not the absence of fear. It's feeling the fear and doing it anyway. Okay? Courage is not the absence of fear. It's feeling the fear and doing it anyway. Because, again, we're all scared of something. We're all scared of something. And, again, many sort of like notable people and experts will say that at that very moment when you no longer feel fear is when you'll make mistakes more easily, because the fear, more times than not, will keep you sharp. That fear will sort of keep you a little nervous. It'll keep you on your toes, right? But just think about it. When you're not scared, I mean, you're just like, you just kind of do whatever. You don't really take it as serious anymore. But when you're nervous, you're like, okay, everybody's looking at me. I got to do a really good job. I got to be sharp. I got to be paying attention, right? Because again, everybody's looking at me. All eyes, like everybody's staring at me. I got to be good. But if you're not nervous or you're not scared, because nervousness, right? That's just a form of fear, right? You're scared you're going to mess up. So it manifests itself through sweaty palms or your heart beating really, really fast, or before I give a speech sometimes my mouth might get dry. But I feel the fear and I do it anyway. And it's usually when I'm most nervous that I do my best job. It's crazy the way that works. But I'm telling you, think back, and you might be able to remember a situation where that exact same thing was the case for you, where you were so nervous and so scared, but you did it anyway, and you got some of the best results ever. It's crazy the way that works. But again, it's all coming back to feeling the fear and doing it anyway. Okay, so remember, number 4 was give yourself a reason through facing your fear to be proud of you. Because remember, you're the best you that ever existed, right? I'm the best. I can say it with pride. I'm the best Sadiq Ali that ever existed. You know what? Because I'm the only one. Right? So I want you guys to think of that. Tell yourself that, right? You are the best. Fill in your name. You are the best whoever your name is that ever walked the planet. Because guess what? You're the only one. So, of course, you're the best. The exact same thing as it pertains to fear. No need to feel fear, right? Because this is one thing that's kind of funny, right, is that your fears aren't exclusive to just you. Lots of people share the same exact fears. But you have a unique ability, because you're unique, to get over those fears. So, guys, those are the 4 reasons that I have for you all tonight. The 4 reasons that I want you to face your fear and to kill your fear right now. And we'll recap them really quickly. Number 1 was facing your fears will give you permission, right, to lead others out of their fear. Facing your fears gives others permission to do the same thing. You're practicing your leadership when you face your fears. Number 2, right? Actually, I'm saying these in reverse order. So that was actually number 2. Number 1 was fear limits you and your perceived potential, right? remember, you'll never grow bigger than what you think you are. That will never happen. So every time you face your fear, you build a little bit more confidence, which is number 3. As you face your fears, you will naturally become more confident because you're chipping away. Every single time you're proving yourself, I can do that. I can do that. I can do that. And then that experience feeds into the next experience, which is another one of my favorite words. It becomes practice for the next thing. That's number 3. And then number 4 is give yourself a reason to be proud of you. Pat yourself on the back and take pride in patting yourself on the back. Not too much, because you don't want anybody to think that, oh, that guy has a big head, or she's so full of herself. She thinks she's better than everybody else. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying give yourself a reason every single day to be proud of you. And you only do that through feeling the fear and doing it anyway. I appreciate you guys, right? So if you have any questions or comments or a story from last week's call that you want to share, *6 to unmute yourself. *6 to unmute yourself.
Hey, Sadiq, this is Sam, man. I'm going to be real quick, man. I'm not going to get between you and your food, man. All right, but one of the things I wanted to mention, man, is a lot of people fear rejection, right? That's like one of the number one fears. And so I wanted to speak on that for a little bit. So if people went for rejection a lot more, the chances of success are actually higher, and there's actually statistics to prove it. So the more you actually go for rejection, the more you actually hear the word no, or the more confident you get. So that could be asking that girl out for prom. That could be doing whatever, giving a speech. Just facing your fear of not being accepted in your speech. If you start facing your fears a lot more, you're going to experience rejection. Sure, that's a part of life, but your chances of success will be that much higher the more rejection that you do experience.
Wow. So if I hear you, Sam, you're actually saying that rejection is a good thing.
Rejection is a good thing. There's a different way to look at it. It's not that, it's not like a black and white thing. I either fail or I succeed. If you look at it another way, if you keep on failing, you're that much closer to success, because that means that, man, I failed this time. All right, now I can tweak this thing and I can make it better the next time. You can learn so much from your failures. So that's why we're telling you to learn, to go for rejection so you can learn from it, especially entrepreneurs. People who want to be entrepreneurs. You need to go ahead and go for rejection so that you can tweak it next time. It can be better and better and better.
Beautiful points, bro. Beautiful points. So true. So true. I hope everybody heard that, guys. Rejection is part of life, but each time you get rejected or you have a situation that doesn't work out exactly as you thought it was going to, you get built up a little bit more. Your armor gets a little stronger, and that is a powerful thing. Man, that's a great point, Sammy. Anybody else got anything to share, or comment, or question? *6. *6
Hello?
to unmute yourself. Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, this is Chris. I had a question. So sometimes in life, you might get bombarded with a lot of, random responsibilities and things that just kind of, come up and unfold. So it kind of throws you off. Like, what are some tips that you have, or what are some things that you do to kind of like restore that balance to help you kind of, get regrounded?
That's a great question. I think personally, when situations come up like that, where again great great question, Chris. I got a story for you guys. So this is me getting a little personal, right? So just literally less than a week ago, on Tuesday afternoon, a sunny, beautiful Tuesday afternoon it was. This is 6 days ago. I'm riding down the street, minding my own business. On the way to a meeting, somebody runs a stop sign and hits me in my car, totals my car while I'm in it on Tuesday.
Wow. So
thankfully, thank the Lord, I walked out of the car. Got out. Both my driver's side, the guy hit me, T-boned me right on the driver's side of my car. My door wouldn't open. The back door wouldn't open. I had to climb over the middle of the car and get out of the driver's side, get out of the other door. But I walked out, though, without a scratch on me. Airbag came out. It was a pretty bad accident. Like I said, literally, I have to go and get a new car this week. But the whole point is that as soon as that happened, I immediately went from being angry to like, man, why did this guy run a stop sign, to being thankful, Chris, because I always try to picture whatever I'm going through from the other angle. So like, A, what if I had been injured? Or B, what if I had been seriously injured? Or C, what if I didn't have insurance? Or D, what if my wife wasn't available to come and pick me up? Or E, what if the list goes on. The list goes on. So what if I didn't have a car to begin with, right? The list goes on. So for me, any situation I find myself in that's not like a great situation, I'm always like, how could this situation be worse? I think that's my first thought is, how could this situation be worse? And then I'm thankful that's not me. Then number two, back to sort of time management, Chris, and prioritization. It's like, after that, you got to knock out one thing at a time. So I knew I had to call an insurance company. I knew I had to call the police. It created some extra errands, but I just did one thing at a time, and already it's almost back to normal. So those are a couple things that almost always work for me. Number one, I'm always thinking that it could be worse. And then number two, I just try to knock out one thing at a time. Because like we said, procrastination sort of happens when we try to multitask and do too much at one time instead of just one thing at a time. Let me finish this one thing and move on to the next thing. Let me knock out this next thing and move on to the next thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that made perfect sense. And I'm sorry to hear that you got in an accident, but, thank goodness that you're all right. And, thank you for the advice. It's really great.
I appreciate it. Like I said, I'm good, man. I'm good because it could have been worse.
Exactly.
All right, guys. If there's no more questions or anything, we will talk to you guys next week. Everybody have an awesome week.
You too. Thank you.
You too.